Happy Sabbath again. The title for this presentation is Jesus, Unmatched in Life. The question that we are asking is, how did your life match with your own teachings? And this is to all the founders of the different religions. Yes, you made big claims. Yes, you said wonderful things, and actually all of them did say wonderful things, which will blow your mind. Beautiful, deep sayings. The question now is, how did your life match with your teachings? Did you provide the message in word only or in actual practice in life? You wanted the people to bring their behavior and practice into line with your teachings. Did you do that yourself? I consider this to be a true and acid test of your claims. So in this session, I will intentionally look for faults and mistakes. Not because I want to do that, but because if I am looking for a person with the credentials that I want, who will take me across from this world into the next, and that's a huge leap. If I don't make it, I'm not going to get it there. So I have to ask, who are you? And if I ask, who are you, I will also ask for your credentials. And one of the credentials is this: did your life match your teachings? When it comes to Hinduism, here's the teaching. When a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires can alone achieve peace. The desires here is talking not only about what you want, it's very specific, it is sexual desires. Can I have the watch clock? So that's the teaching. Don't go towards that. By the way, all religious writings talk about sex. All. And the reason is because it's so ingrained in us that it's a part of our life. If it was not there, and if it was not strong, if the impulse was not strong, we would have gone extinct. That is why God placed it there, to be a strong part of our lives. But there's always a caution: it can overtake you. So that's the caution that was given here. Don't let it overtake you. So don't let it drive you. So that's the teaching. So really, did your founders actually keep to that? Here are some words by Gautama Buddha, but he was a Hindu at this time, so we're talking about Hinduism, and this is his statement on Hindu heroes. Our books, holy books, tell us of gods, sages, and heroes who, though high-minded, were addicted to sensuous passions. So it is not the question of whether you indulged. You indulged in such a point that we have to call you addicted. One of the most glaring examples of going against the clear rule is found in the life of Krishna, the eighth incarnate of the god Vishnu. In many circles, he is called the supreme personality of the Hindu Godhead. He is described as being playful, but that is not the whole story. He was known for his sexual activities and was deeply disliked by the men in Mathura, which was the neighboring town to where he lived. Why did they hate him? Because he was fooling around with their wives. When Ayana Ghosha, for example, heard of Radha's adultery, Ayana Ghosha is married to Radha. He went in search of the couple. So who is this couple going together instead of he and his wife? His wife is going with Krishna. Therefore, Krishna assumed the form of a goddess and thereby escaped Ayana Ghosha's wrath. There are multiple such stories of his behavior. In fact, he was chided in one of the, in those days when they had wars, the two sides would meet before the war, the leaders, and say, we're going to go to war. Then the armies would go to war. During one of those meetings, it was a royal meeting with the leaders on one side, kings and princes on one side, and kings and princes on the other side. One of the princes turned to Krishna and said, hey, don't think this is like fooling around with other women. This is war. So why did he say that? Because he was fooling around with them. In some traditional writings, he is claimed to have had 16,000 wives. So Solomon is out of the picture. Even if this number is only figurative, it does confess to his way of life. He is said to have fathered 180,000 sons. This is not in line with the principle of abstaining from sexual activities so as to keep the mind focused on transcendental meditation. How much time for transcendental meditation if you want to have 180,000 sons? So his life did not match his teachings. Similarly with Buddhism, it's almost the same type of teaching. Here, venerable gentlemen, these are the words of Gautama Buddha himself, are the 4 rules about the offenses which deserve expulsion. There are 4 rules. After that, you can't stay in the monastery. 1, if a monk should have sexual intercourse with just anyone. 2, if you steal. 3, if you murder. And 4, if you claim to have transcendental powers when you don't. These are the 4 things. If you indulge in them, you're out. But the number 1, no sex. The fact is, Gautama Buddha himself was married and had a son. At his birth, a prophet named Asita came down from the Himalayas because Gautama, you know his name, Gautama Buddha? Buddha is an honorific name. It just means awakening, enlightening. And Gautama comes from the clan which he belonged to, Gautama clan, which is in the north parts of India into Nepal. When he was going to be born, a prophet came down from the Himalaya mountains. That's where he was doing his meditation. And his father was a king. His name was Sudhodana. And he himself, his name was Siddhartha, that is Gautama Buddha. And the prophet came down and said, I'll give you 2 choices. Your son, you're going to have a son. And your son will be either a world emperor or he will be an ascetic going out into the wilderness, half naked, looking for truth. What do you want your son to be? He said, I want him to be a world emperor. All right, then I'll put conditions to that. He must never set his eyes on old age, disease, suffering, or death. Keep him away from these and he will become a world emperor. So now when he was born, how do you keep a son away from all of these things? The father had an idea. Their traditional writings describe how he did it. He built palaces with multiple stories. And he kept Siddhartha, who was going to become Gautama Buddha, on the top floor, never let him come down, not even to the palace grounds. Because if he came down to the palace grounds, he might set his eyes on one of these forbidden things. So how do you keep a young man there the whole time, whole day? We are not left to guess, because their writings tell us. He was entertained there with women minstrels. They entertained him with wanton swayings, butterfly kisses, seductive glances. Thus he became a captive of these women who were well versed in the subject of sensuous enjoyment and indefatigable in sexual pleasure. Every day, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, for 13 years, that was his life. And he said, you guys don't have sex because if you are, we'll chase you out of the monastery. He's the one. Did he keep to it? During the years when he was searching, by the way, he did set his eyes on one of those things. So he left the palace and he went out into the boonies looking for light. And he went to such austerities. You know what austerities is? Just refrain from anything that is good for you. No pleasure, starve yourself, beat yourself, lie down on thorns and nails, stand up for hours and hours at an end and never sit down and never stand up, starve yourself. He describes it as sometimes in a whole 2 weeks, he would eat only 1 grain of rice. Starving himself, looking for light. During those days, this is what he said. In fulfillment of my vows, I have plucked out the hair of my head and the hair of my beard, have gone down to the water punctually thrice before nightfall to wash away what? The evil within. He knew it was there. The word evil, well, we won't discuss about that right now. So did he keep to his teachings? No, he didn't. In Islam, chapter 4 of the Quran says that you may marry other women who seem good to you, 2, 3, or 4. And that's how you have most of the countries where Muslims live, the countries allow a Muslim to have up to 4 wives. It is a part of their the rules of the country. Others, monogamy, a Muslim can have 4, based on this. But look at what it also says about Muhammad. We, Allah, have given you, Muhammad, a glorious victory so that Allah may forgive your past and future what? Sins. Yes, this is in the Quran. Chapter 93 says, Surah 93 says, did he, Allah, not find you, Muhammad, in error and guide you? You know, he is supposed to be, and he is called the perfect man. And that is why, if you criticize him, that's an affront to the whole religion. Because he's the perfect man. But look at the perfect man in the writings of the Quran. So perfect man also has sins and errors. Really? Is that the level of your perfection? So if you want to call him a perfect man, you'll have to agree that the perfection includes sins and errors. And that is not perfect. Judaism, the teachings, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not bear false witness. We are looking at 3 of the greats of Jewish religion. Moses, so he looked this way and that way, and when he saw no one, he killed him and hid him in the sand. What is that? Murder. Abraham, so he went into Hagar. Hagar is not his wife, adultery. And then when he goes to another country, he tells a lie to the ruler of that country and says that she's my sister. Well, half sister. But then there was a problem in that town. God sent a problem, and the ruler agreed that there was a problem because of what he was doing to Abraham's wife. So he told Abraham, why the heck did you not tell me she was your wife? In other words, Abraham had bluffed him. He had lied to him. Then David sent messengers and took her. Who is her? Bathsheba. Not his wife. By the way, her husband was not really an Israelite. His name is Uriah the Hittite. Hittites were foreigners. Then how come he came into Israel? Because he was converted. And he became one of the most faithful soldiers of David. And it's against him that he's committing this. He went and fooled around with his wife, and then he realized, hey, people will come to know, so the best thing is to hide it. And hide it he tried, and he couldn't. So the most wicked way to do that is to kill the husband. This one, who's a foreigner, who had been converted to Judaism to follow the true God, and now had become one of his faithful soldiers, kill him, murder him, cold blood. You tell me whether any of these greats kept their faith. None. Then come to Jesus. Jesus was accused of the sin of blasphemy. If you look at John, it says, then the Jews took up stones to stone him. And when that took place, Jesus looked at them and said, hey, I've done a whole lot of good things. For which of these good things are you planning to stone me? And they said, no, we're not stoning you for the good things you did. We are stoning you for blasphemy. Because you, being a man, make yourself God. So did he break the law? According to the story, he did. But really, we are reading the story in the literature in which it is. And that same literature tells us, no, it was not blasphemy because he was really God. The same literature. So we look at the same writings, and looking at it back now 2,000 years, we cannot say he really was a blasphemer because the same writing says, no, he was really God. John 1:1 says, in the beginning he was God. Thus the writings on which we base our assessments stands by him despite the accusation of the Jews. But are there indications in the writing that say he was called, okay, perfect by many, many people. So here's what we'll look at. There are 12 statements I'll put on the screen one by one. Number one, Pilate. Pilate was a Roman. Now, Romans hated Jews. So anytime they'd find a chance, they would just downright put them down and maybe take them to the gallows, take them to the cross, just kill them, treat them bad. But here is Pilate, accused by the Jews and still saying this, indeed, having examined him in your presence, I have found no fault in this man. And in the book of John, he says, I find no fault in him at all. And then he quotes Herod, because he had sent him to Herod. And he says, no, Herod also sent him back to us, because Herod also did not find any fault in him. He sent him back to us. So two people, Pilate, Herod, found no fault. Number three, Pilate's wife. At the trial, Pilate's wife sent Pilate a note, and saying, wait a minute, please be careful what you do with that man. I saw him in my dream. I did. And I know that he's a just man. That just man. What's the meaning of just man? Good man. Watch what you're doing, Pilate. So the third one is Pilate's wife. For the Roman centurion at the cross, these Roman centurions were hard-hearted people, especially the ones who would send people to the cross. The cross was one of the most cruel way of putting anybody to death. Do you know how they die on the cross? It's by suffocation. It's not by the blood loss. It's by suffocation. And the average time you hang on the cross is about 2 to 3 days, suffocating little by little until you're finally gone. And when you're gone, you're so relieved to die because of the suffering. These people who did that were hard-hearted. They knew them. They knew these criminals who would come and just put them on the cross, laugh at them, crack jokes while they're dying. This man saw Jesus. And he said something that we've never heard any other centurion say. When he saw the demeanor of Jesus, the way he conducted himself on the cross, heard his words, this is what he said. Certainly, this was a righteous man. That was number 4. Number 5, the thief on the cross. One of them said, hey, if you're such a great guy, can you not take us down? The other one said, wait a minute. You and I are dying for what we did. We broke the law. But this man has done nothing wrong. That's 5. Number 6, a close disciple of Jesus. Now, in the days of Jesus, like in India, we do have gurus. The people who follow them are called shishyas. In the Jewish tradition, they are rabbis, and the people who follow them are talmidim. Anytime a rabbi goes by a home and wants to pick one of the children over there to be his talmidim or his follower, that family feels absolutely honored. You choosing our son? And when they send them off, these are the words that the parents will say to the talmidim who is sent off to follow the rabbi. May the dust of your rabbi's sandals cover your clothes. What's the meaning? Follow so closely that the dust from his sandals comes onto you. The idea of a talmidim is to become exactly like his master. The way he sits, you will sit. The way he talks, you will talk. The way he eats, you will eat. The way he walks, you will walk. The way he talks, you will talk. Everything you have to become like your rabbi. That is the whole principle of a rabbi-talmidim relationship. So they would watch every bit of their rabbi so that they could be like him. So this talmidim called John watched his rabbi. Every day, morning till evening, week after week, month after month, year after year, for 3.5 years, continuously watching him. This was his final conclusion. In him, there is no sin. Disciple Peter, again, Christ, without spot, without blemish. Paul was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. Disloyal disciple Judas, after he realized what he had done was wrong, he ran back to the temple with those 30 pieces of silver, tossed them on the ground and said, "Take it. What did he say? I have sinned by betraying innocent blood." He was also one of the disciples who had watched him carefully. Look at all the number of people saying there seems to be just simply no fault in him. Number 10 is unusual, but it's powerful. The Quran. In Surah 3 and Ayah 46, that is chapter 3 and verse 46, he shall lead a righteous life. This is in the Quran. Holy, blameless son. Do you know the Quran doesn't say this of anyone else on earth? Nobody else. We just saw that about Muhammad. There is sin, error. Jesus, no sin. 11, we're coming to the close of this. Jesus' own conscience. Now, how many of us can look into our lives and say, I'm fine, completely fine from all that I look back into my life. I am blameless. None of us can say that. Not a single person. But here we find one person who could. He looked at the people who were bitterly looking for his death. And this is what he asked them. Can any of you show me sin? Can you convict me of even one sin? And the answer was silence. I put on the screen also the name Kung Shu. Anybody knows who that is? That's a Chinese name. The English name is Confucius. Confucius is known for his gentlemanly behavior. In fact, if you go to China and talk about Confucius, he is called the perfect gentleman. Beautiful, good character, almost like blameless. And look how he says about his blamelessness. How dare I claim to be a sage or a benevolent man? I am not. Compare that with Jesus. Which of you can convict me even of one sin? Number 12, the Sanhedrin at the time of the trial, they were looking for ways to put him to death. And in the Jewish tradition, you could have an open trial, one of the few countries or nations that had open trial. In other words, you could get witnesses to either put him to death, or you could get witnesses to absolve you from the crime. Bring your witnesses, open trial. So they brought witnesses trying to put him to death. 1, 2, 3, they just could not. And then the chief priest, against all rules, because a judge is not supposed to be a prosecuting attorney, he steps down from his role and goes down to Jesus and wants to prosecute him. So he asks him. He puts him under the most severe oath that a Jewish ear can hear. I adjure you by the living God, tell us if you are the Son of God. To that you cannot plead the fifth. Because this place, no. You have to answer. I adjure you, are you the Son of the living God? Why did he go to that question? How do you put people to death? By looking at what they did. You did it wrong, you broke the law. And based on breaking the law, we'll put you to death. That was the Roman law, that was the Jewish law. You break the law, you'll be put to death. This is the one time in history of jurisprudence where a person was handed down the death sentence not for what he did or did not do, but who he was. Why? Because bringing all the witnesses, they could not find one reason to find a fault in him. So he shifted out, not from what did you do, did not do, who are you? Shifting out. Reason, they could not find a single reason that showed that he had broken the law. So these 12, and I find this final thing to be really at the judicial level, blameless. The only one. Are you then the Son of God? Yes. Are you blameless? The only one to be blameless. So here and here alone, of all the ones that I looked at, did I find that the theory had been met in practice. The teachings had found their complete and total fulfillment in real life. So here and here alone can I say I find a person who has lived his life to an unblemished perfection. The only one then who can turn to you and me and say, follow me. None of the others can say, follow me, because if you followed them, you would still fall because they all fell. He is the only one who has the right to turn to us and say, follow me, because he never fell. All along. Are you then the Son of God? Of course. Why? I lived an absolutely perfect life. 15 million minutes of life on this earth in the midst of a corrupt, wicked and corrupt generation. Every thought, every deed, every purpose, every work, privately and publicly, from the time he opened his baby eyes until he expired on the cross, were all approved of God. Never once did our Lord have to confess any sin, for he had no sin. Let's take a break. Think about this, take a deep breath, sit back, think, and if you have questions, you can ask. You can stretch out if you want. Usually I make the people stand up, but I won't do that to you because you've had a good lunch, I think. You're going to sit comfortably where you are. So just 1 minute and then we'll restart and then we can have questions after that. Think. Think about your captain. Think about your commander. He has never known defeat, not even by death. All right, we'll just carry on and then we'll have enough time for Q&A then. The next topic is Jesus, the doer of the impossible. If you say he's the doer of the impossible, then we have to place certain criteria before us so that we can say, yeah, that is what was done. So here are the criteria. Number one, he must claim to be able to do a feat that no one else can possibly equal. Number two, he must not only claim, he must perform and successfully accomplish that feat. And we are here removed by 2,000 years. We should have sufficient evidence that the feat was done. We should be convinced. So what are the three criteria? He must claim to do something that nobody else can do. He must actually do it and give us enough evidence that he did it. Then we will say that he has accomplished the impossible, or he is a doer of the impossible. So, did he make any claim? Yes, he did. He made a claim that if you killed him, he would rise again. He said that he himself would rise again from the dead. Wilbur Smith says there's no founder of any religion known to men ever dared to say a thing like that. Honestly, I have not found anybody else to say something like that. Kill me, I'll rise again. Who has the guts to say that? We may safely assume that there never was, before or since, such a proposal made. So Jesus did make a truly impossible claim, I will rise up from the dead. When asked for a sign, they asked him, hey, you talking so much about this, what is the sign that you give of your authority? He pointed to this one sign, just one sign. Kill me, I'll rise again. That is my authority. He who was ready to come back to stake everything on his ability to come back from the tomb, stands before us as the most original of all teachers. So Jesus made the boldest claim anyone could make: I will rise again from the dead. Did he do it? The resurrection says yes. So we will not say yes now, because we have to still figure out whether he did it. So don't jump to the conclusion. Did he do it? Don't say yes until you have the evidence that he did. All right? Because this whole seminar, we are trying to say, don't just state your belief. State the reason for your belief. So don't say he rose, unless you have a good reason to say he rose. Not based on your belief. So here it is. First of all, the New Testament is the best attested ancient literature of the world. Historical. And this historical literature says it happened. The angel said, why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here, but is risen. Remember how he spoke to you when you were still in Galilee. The angel again in another gospel. He is risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him. He is not here. He is risen as he said. So the historical piece of literature says that he rose. But now we are moved 2,000 years from then. Whether the resurrection took place or not is not a question of faith and belief. It is a question of fact versus falsehood. Therefore, the question in every normal, rational thinking mind is this. This is an unusual report of an extraordinary event. Do we have historical evidence for such an unbelievable story? So let's look for evidence that we can weigh out today. There are some, and here are they. There are 5 of them that we can look at. Number 1, the change in the disciples after the resurrection. Number 2, the presence of the Christian church, which is a historical reality. Number 3, the testimony of eyewitnesses. Number 4, deathbed confessions, which are the strongest piece of evidence you can table in a court of law today. Number 5, the claim of the resurrection is based on evidence of other scholars as well. So number 1, the change in the disciples. J.R.W. Stott says this: perhaps the transformation of the disciples of Jesus is the greatest evidence of all for the resurrection. A little band of defeated cowards cowering in an upper room one day, and a few days later transformed into a company that no persecution could silence. What made the change? You cannot give it any ordinary reason. There has to be something that shifted out a total coward to become the greatest, boldest man who would die for the same thing that he was running from. They were willing to face arrest, imprisonment, beatings, and horrible deaths, and not one of them ever recanted of his belief that Christ had risen. Only a dramatic and powerful event like a resurrection, of which they themselves were witnesses, can explain such a huge change. Number 2, the Christian church. You know, when one of them had denied Jesus and gone away, there was now 11 disciples. But the master had 12. So the others got together and said, we need to replace him. So when they wanted to replace him, they wanted to cast lots. But before casting lot, they had to choose the people. And if you look at the criteria that they used, there were 2 criteria that they used to choose who they would put in the mix, from whom they would pick the lot. And the 2 criteria was this. Number 1, the person we will choose should have been around with us the whole time Jesus was with us. The entire time. And number 2, the person who must join us must be a witness of his resurrection. You want to talk about Jesus' life? That club. You want to talk about the miracles that Jesus did and how wonderfully he dealt with the people? Join that club. You want to talk about the nice teachings of Jesus? That club. This club, one criterion. You saw Jesus before and after his death. This was the start of the Christian church. It was not some newfangled ism that came about, my friends. It was not some beautiful teachings that came about. This was not the starting of the Christian church. It was one blast of a clarion call. Come and see a man who rose up from the dead. We are witnesses. Listen to him, because he did something that nobody else can ever hope to do. He did something that is supernatural. So that was the start of the Christian church. And today, it's still alive. Christianity stands or falls with the truth of the resurrection. Once you disprove it, you have disposed of Christianity. The institution of the Christian church then is a historical phenomenon explained only by Jesus' resurrection. You cannot explain the presence of Christianity by his death, because he died as a criminal under the condemnation of Rome, under the condemnation of his own community, and if you look carefully, it was under the condemnation of God himself. Because in the Torah, you go to chapter 21, verse 23, it says, whoever is hanged is cursed of God. That's how. So you cannot really explain Christianity by his death. You can only explain Christianity by what happened after his death, and what happened after was his resurrection. Number 3, eyewitnesses. Do you know this is the only religious literature in which eyewitnesses have written down what they saw in the very same generation as the event? Many other writings there are which write later, much later after the event, possibly bordering even on legendary writings. This one, no, at the very event, they wrote it down. He who has seen has testified. Number 2, he was seen by over 500 brethren at once, of whom the greater part remain to the present. Some people say this was a hallucination that they had. But hallucinations are actually very private issues. You can't have an hallucination and tell your friend, hey, can you also please have the same hallucination I had? Because the hallucination comes to you alone. Only you can be hallucinated. So if you are going to claim that 500 people had the same hallucination at the same time, it will be a greater miracle than the resurrection. So that's out. There were 500 who saw him at the same time. Number 3, he was showed to us, who ate and drank with him after he rose from the dead. That which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked upon and our hands have actually handled, that is what we are writing down. We have not followed cunningly devised fables, but were eyewitnesses. People didn't see Jesus from a distance in a vague and hazy manner. They saw him individually. They saw him in large numbers at one time. They had meals with him. They had physically touched him. This type of a report of such an astounding miracle stands unequaled in history. The very kind of evidence which modern science and even psychologists are so insistent upon is the kind of evidence that we have presented to us regarding the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, namely the things that are seen with the human eye, touched with the human hand, and heard by the human ear. This is what we call empirical or direct evidence in history. Notes that are clearly stated in the same generation as the event. Number 4, deathbed confessions. A deathbed confession of an eyewitness is one of the strongest forms of evidence to be tabled in a court of law today. If 2 or 3 such witnesses can be found, they would amount to undeniable testimony. Few judges and juries in the world will overturn multiple deathbed confessions stating the same detail. Do we have deathbed confessions? Peter was crucified upside down. James was stoned to death. Matthew was killed by the sword. James, the son of Alphaeus, was crucified. James, the son of Zebedee, was killed by the sword. Thaddeus was shot through with arrows. Bartholomew was crucified. Andrew was crucified. Philip was crucified. Simon the Zealot was crucified. Thomas was killed with a spear. Paul was beheaded, and not one of them ever recanted. If you say Jesus rose up, we'll be angry with you. He rose. If you continue saying we'll beat you up, he rose. We'll put you in jail, he rose. We'll persecute you, he rose. We'll kill you. I can't say anything else than what's in my conscience. I saw him. And one by one, they died. Unable to run away from the stand that they had taken, that they actually had seen him. A deathbed confession. Not one of them ever reversed the claim. They didn't die all at the same time, my friends. One was killed here, and then a few months later they got the other guy and say, hey, do you know what we did to him? You really think he rose up from the dead? Look what we did to that guy. You really want to leave your wife as a widow and your children as orphans? I saw him alive. One by one. Time after time. Month after month. And they would look at them straight in the face. Here's what I sometimes envision in my own mind. I've thought through this many times, my friends. How did they die? So bravely? What words did they use? So I wrote down in my own mind what I think sometime they might have told the persons who came to kill them. So here's a soldier who comes to one of the disciples of Jesus. Hey, you think he rose up? He rose. We'll kill you. He rose. So he pulls out his sword. Just before he pulls out his sword to do his deed of killing, the disciple says, just wait 1 minute. I am an innocent man. And you are going to kill an innocent man. I did nothing wrong. I didn't break any law. You are going to kill me just because it was told. But it'll be on your hands because it's from your hand that the sword is now holding. And that hand, if you kill me, you will be responsible. And one day you will look back and you will know when they have done all the investigations that I was innocent. I didn't break any law. And when that happens, your conscience will burn. And it will start persecuting you. And there will come a time when you will not know what to do with a horrible conscience that you have at having killed an innocent man. And when you cannot bear the guilt anymore, listen to me. I will tell you what to do. Go to Jesus. He is the only one who can forgive you. And when he forgives you, he will give you what he promised me, life. You and I, we will meet in the kingdom. Go ahead and kill. Everyone who died, there were 10 others who came to Jesus. That is why we say today that was a real event. They were not killed at the same time. They one by one made it not just a question of death, but made it a question of a witness in death. Nobody could pierce their armor. It was complete. Look, if you're not afraid of death, you have full protection, my friends. Full protection. There's nothing that can touch you. Nothing. The worst thing that can happen to you is to die. And if that is not going to frighten you, nothing on earth will frighten you. Go to Jesus. That's where you get your strength from. Gary Habermas was a scholar who described what is called the minimal facts approach. When discussing ancient claims, it has two features. It's called the minimal facts approach. Just two features. Number one, the claim should have some evidence in its favor. And number two, other researchers doing the study should come to a similar conclusion. So on these two, when we look back at ancient writings and ancient narratives and stories, you should do these two. Find some evidence that it was really true, and then look to somebody else who has done a research and study on the same thing. So what we have done so far, given these 5 evidences of Jesus' resurrection, will meet the criteria for that first one. We have some evidence. So now the second one. Do other scholars agree? And here are the statements of 7 scholars. And notice that all of them use the word evidence. None of them say, I feel so, I think so, I believe so. All of them will use the word evidence. Watch for it. Number one, indeed taking all the evidence together. It is not too much to say that there is no historic incident better or more variously supported than the resurrection of Christ. Number two, by all rules of evidence, his bodily resurrection from the grave can be adjudged the best proved fact of all ancient history. Number three, thousands and tens of thousands of persons have gone through it piece by piece as carefully as every judge summing up a most important case. I have myself done it many times over, not to persuade others, but to satisfy myself. And I know of no one fact in the history of mankind which is proved by better and fuller evidence of every sort to the understanding of a fair inquirer than that Christ died and rose from the dead. Thomas Arnold, Chairman of the Department of Modern History in Oxford University, right here. Number 4, the claims of Jesus Christ, namely his resurrection, has led me as often as I have tried to examine the evidence to believe it as a fact beyond dispute. Who is he? Lord Chief Justice of England. Number 5, I know pretty well what evidence is, and I tell you such evidence as that for the resurrection has never broken down yet. 3 times High Chancellor of England. Number 6, on that greatest point, we are not merely asked to have faith. In its favor as living truth, there exists such overwhelming evidence that no intelligent jury in the world could fail to bring in a verdict that the resurrection story is true. Lord Darling, Chief Justice of England, don't you think he should know something about evidence? And he says there is overwhelming evidence. Number 7, the bones of Abraham and Muhammad and Buddha and Confucius and Lao Tzu and Zoroaster are still here on earth. Jesus' tomb is empty. It is the concrete, factual, empirical proof that life has hope and meaning. Love is stronger than death. Life wins in the end because God has touched us right here where we are and has defeated our last enemy called death. We are not cosmic orphans. Scholars then agree that he rose from the dead based on evidence, not mere blind belief. So we close with this conclusion. Jesus made the highest claim regarding himself. He claimed to be God. He also claimed to do the impossible, to rise up from the dead. Not only did he accomplish it, we can have assurance today that it was done based on the evidence we possess. Jesus is unique in every way. He remained undefeated even by death. We may safely follow him.